Well, good evening, everybody. It's me, Mitch. And here we are. Here we are, Tuesday night. Good to see. Good to see all of you out there. Wow. 55 of you right off the bat. Good to see you chatting up a storm. Hello to you all from sunny Florida. It's sunny now. About an hour and a half ago, it was raining like hell. And that's what they say about Florida. If you don't like the weather, wait a minute. But it's nice. No thunder, no lightning. Hopefully, no power failures. But I'm ready for that. I got it covered. So how is everybody tonight? I see you guys are just chatting up a storm. And let me start right out here by trying to get rid of that message on the screen. There you go. Something I always do. Let me thank right off the bat Mark C. Thank you so much, man. Gifted 5 private community memberships. And let's see who got them. Because YouTube picks them. So we have Gux, G-U-X, was gifted a membership. Rain Dancer 1980. Howdy Partner was gifted a membership. Dizzy Willow. And Jen Graham. Oh, all names I don't think I've seen before. So welcome, guys. And what that means is for 30 days, you are a member of the private community. You can come into our live stream on Thursday night. Check it out. Try it out. Thank Mark C. for the gift. There's no obligation. If you don't want to be a member, it's about, $3.99 a month. If you don't see any benefit, I don't want you to do it. We have a great little community, about 150 people so far, and everybody gets a lot of support in there. We have great live streams in the private live stream. People can come right into a window and join the conversation, and we get to meet each other. Sometimes, surprisingly, we even talk about carnivore, but it seems like we all have so many varied other interests that the conversation just goes everywhere. And before I know it, 2 hours has flown by. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, if it's not something you want to do, just make sure sometime before that 30 days that you just cancel. It's easy to do. And you'll be a member for the full 30 days because Mark C. has given you a gift. So once again, thanks, Mark, for that. Much appreciated. Those people who got the memberships will notice that in the chat, your name is going to be green now. And the green means that they're members of the private community. And I see a lot of green in here already, which is great. Great. Well, today was a really interesting day. I guess we could call it a meetup, but it was more like an invitation for me to lunch. It wasn't something that I publicized or tried to get everybody to participate in, but Michael, whose handle is United Carnivore. You all got used to seeing Michael in the chat. His father lives here in Melbourne, not too far from me. And both he and his father are carnivores, and both very active ones now. I was hugely surprised today to find out that Michael has lost, I think he told me he weighed 367 pounds, something. Showed me a picture of himself. It was outrageous. And now to look at the guy. And you're going to get a chance to look at Michael tomorrow because I don't go anywhere like that without a camera. So we filmed away during our whole lunch, and we went to the Brazilian steakhouse here. And if you've never been to a Brazilian steakhouse, it is absolutely a meat orgy. They just keep coming around with meat on skewers, and you have a little tongs and they start slicing stuff off, and you grab it with your tongs, and it just never ends. And they have terrific meat. Now they have a lot of other things. They have a salad bar, they have fish, they have a chicken, but we stayed away from all of that. We ate only the red meat, which they cook with nothing but salt. And it was cooked perfectly. Everything from ribeye to bacon wrapped filet mignon to picanha, sirloin, skirt steak. Every one of them tasted better than the one you ate before it. And you'd think, this was the interesting thing, you'd think that you'd just keep eating and you wouldn't be able to move because they just keep bringing food. But interestingly enough, all three of us at pretty much the same time said, that's enough. We've had enough. I wasn't stuffed. I wasn't uncomfortable. I certainly don't feel like I overindulged, pigged out, ate at a normal pace. I think we probably ate for about 45 minutes, and I'm sure we consumed quite a bit of food. But on carnivore, when you're not eating the carbs and you're not eating all that other stuff, and you've been doing it for a while, it never ceases to amaze me how your normal satiety signals just kick in. And you just push yourself away and say, I'm satisfied. It was great. I know I could probably sit here and eat for another 2 hours because they don't put any limit on it, but you don't want to. And we were talking, we had a conversation. And we all noticed that even though we were eating all of that meat, none of us overdid it. And I said to Michael, I said, now imagine that this wasn't all red meat, that this was an Italian all-you-can-eat buffet with breadsticks and garlic bread, with all different kinds of pastas, with tomato sauces, everything just loaded with carbohydrates and sugar. Would we have been able, or would we have even wanted to, just say, that's enough, no thank you? Or would we have gorged ourselves and kept eating until we couldn't move, and then looking at the dessert menu as well? And that's what happens when you eat carbohydrates. And I talk about that a lot, about the fact that when you're eating carbs, it's in our nature not to have any satiety signals, because it was beneficial for us when eating the survival food to gorge and get as much of it as we could, because in those days, in the early days, was in short supply. And anytime we came across it, we had the imperative to keep eating until basically it was all gone, or we simply couldn't put down another bite. Doesn't happen with red meat. It's why carnivore works. Every time we do that, it proves itself to me that eating this way, eating only the red meat, allows your physiology to do what it's programmed to do and tell you, number one, when you're hungry. And none of us had eaten anything prior. I had not eaten since 3 o'clock the previous afternoon. I wasn't famished when we went in there, but I could eat. And we ate until our normal urges said enough, and we stopped. And the waiter came around and, would you like to see a dessert menu? And all of us in unison went, no. And none of us went to the salad bar. And we just sat there. And I have some pretty neat little film of it. And tomorrow I'll be releasing that video about our little meetup. And I talked to the manager there. They have some private rooms, which can hold quite a number of people. And I've been promising to do this. So we're going to be doing some of these meetups and inviting everybody who wants to come. We're going to do one of them here on the west coast of Florida in Melbourne, and then we're going to be doing one in Tampa here on the East Coast, and then we're going to be going to the west coast of Florida and doing one in Tampa. Michael lives over in Tampa. His father lives over here. And I'll be publicizing these and asking people to, we'll set a date to make plans to RSVP so that we know exactly how many people are coming. I'll publicize the menu for this place, and the video of our little lunch there will be online, so you'll be able to see what to expect. And I'm really hoping, because I know there's so many people that live an hour or an hour and a half from here where it wouldn't be, or Tampa, where it wouldn't be that big a deal to jump in the car and come up and have a meetup and sit around for a couple hours, get to know each other. So I'm looking forward to that, and that's going to be coming. That's going to be coming. The place is perfect for it. We started at 11:30 when they opened today. It never got crowded during the week. We'll have to pick a day, which is probably going to be a good day of the week for most people. And if you have any thoughts or ideas about that, what day of the week you think might be better, email me. Email me at oldguycarnivore@gmail.com. We'll probably do it for lunch, and we'll probably set the time like we did today for when they first open at 11:30. So that's coming. That's coming. And look for the video tomorrow. It was great. And Michael, it was an absolute pleasure meeting you and your dad and your wife Isa today. And we just had a great time. And I think we were probably the healthiest people in the whole restaurant. It was great. It was absolutely great. So let me, I don't have many other announcements. I have my little disclaimer. You know, I'm not a doctor. I don't give individual medical or nutritional advice. I tell you what I do for myself, how I do it, why I think it works, and take you along on my journey. And it's up to you to decide if this is something that you want to do for yourself. Not a doctor, not a licensed nutritionist. Don't want to step on anybody's toes. I don't tell you to not take drugs. I don't tell you to not follow your doctor's orders. I tell you, look at me. Look at what I've done in the past couple of years. Look what it's done for me. And here's why it works. So I hope that message gets out and is meaningful to you. Mark was in here early this morning. He says, okay, I'll go first. And, you know, when I post the live stream, the chat becomes active. And people log in sometimes in the morning just to stick their name in the chat and say hello and be the first. And today, Mark C. was the first, followed up by Turamir. How you doing, my friend? If I'm awake, I will join us. I'm on sick leave for a couple days, but this stream is at 3 a.m. for me. Holy mackerel. That's right. You're way over there in Europe somewhere. I do understand, my friend, and it's great. It's great to see you here. Great to see you here. There's Michael, United Carnivore. Greetings from Tampa Bay, everyone. And he commented on our incredible meetup today. By the way, we're looking forward to many more to come. Community matters. Carnivores unite. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cliff Medina's here. How you doing, Cliff? Good to see you, as well as Spanky from Canada. Golf addict. Good to see you. My friend CB Carmack, Sheriff Carmack from Alabama. Good to see you, my friend, and happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. 44 years old. No, you're not getting old. You're not getting old. You got a ways to go, my friend. But happy birthday to you. Jody, my friend Jody, Drone Shots is here. How you doing, Jody? Good to see you. Patty Molden, good evening, everyone. And Michael Pregler's here. Hi, Michael. How you doing? Michael seems to get up every day and watch Kelsey's 5 a.m. live stream. I'm up at 5 every morning. These are long days. Good to see you. Nick Sheeson is here. How you doing? Says hello, everyone. Steve Studley. Good evening, Mitch. Linda G. Hiya, Linda. How you doing? And Jerry Vajtush from Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. And I hope you'll be able to make it maybe up to Tampa or over here to Melbourne for one of our meetups. That'd be great. That'd be great. And don't let me stop you guys from arranging your own meetups anywhere in the country where you live and have other carnivores that live near you. We are a merry, tiny little band of rebels doing this. And after being around all the people eating all the crap all the time, I got to tell you that lunch today was a pleasure, being around people where you didn't have to feel like an oddball. Diane, how you doing, Mulcahy? Good to see you from Melbourne, Australia. Well, good morning to you. It's tomorrow. It's Diane from the future. And who else haven't I said hi to? We're still saying hi to people that came in well before 8 o'clock. We're up to 7:55. Pat Ramirez, how you doing? Richard Williams, good evening from Copper Hill, Tennessee. Lynn Clow says hi, hi Mitch, and hi everyone. Bill Cook is here, waving at all of us. How you doing? Randy, hey Randy K, out on the road tonight from Willingboro, New Jersey. You're in New Jersey. Hey, cool. I'm glad you can make it, Randy. Good to see you. And getting even further away than New Jersey is Juan Manuel from Chile. Hi, Juan. Good to see you, man. Juan is more than likely driving people around in his Uber thing down there, and we see Juan live from his car on Thursday nights, or sitting home in his blue bathrobe sipping coffee. My kind of guy. Mark Davis is here. Hey, Mark. Good evening to you, sir. How you doing? Mark? And I'll just take this time right now to point out that I got myself a nice brand new shirt. Look at this. Is this beautiful? Let me show it to you. Let me go over here to this camera so you can see my shirt. What do you think of this? And it fits. So, and it just magically appeared on my doorstep one day. Imagine that. Oscar Rodriguez is here. Hello, Oscar. How you doing? Good to see you. My neighbor from Miami. Yeah, I hope you get up here when we have one of the meetups here in Melbourne. I know it's about a 2.5-hour drive, but it'd be fun. I don't know if I said hi to Bill Cook yet, but in case I did, how you doing? And who else we got? Here we go. We have Primo Stoker. How you doing? Hello, I eat mostly meat, but I also eat some veggies. You are absolutely welcome here. If that works for you, that's great. Sue Hall. Hi, Sue. And Tina Schweikerath. How you doing, Tina? Schweikerath. Yeah, I got it. Hi, Mitch. Been several weeks since I caught you live. My husband passed away. Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry to hear that. Condolences, Tina. I'm just starting to feel myself again. I've missed watching. I certainly need the Carnivore pep talk. Anytime. Anytime. And again, so sorry to hear that. We have Richard, CDL driver. How you doing? Good to see you. And the Infringinator. It's he, Mitch. I like that. I like that. Lynn Clow. Sorry for your loss, Tina. I think we all are. We all are. And Mark Davis, also condolences. And Texas, Tom's Shaving Tips. Hello to everyone from West Texas. West Texas. And I want to thank Tom. I want to thank Tom especially for a little effort that he did on my behalf. He drew me up a pretty extensive disclaimer, try to keep my ass out of trouble. And I'm going to be starting to incorporate that into the descriptions of my videos. It's kind of lengthy, but covers everything. And just want to tell you, Tom, I really appreciate that effort. That was really, really above and beyond, and very nice of you to go to that work on my behalf. Appreciate it. Charger Mopar is here. He says we'll be on the live later. We'll look out for you. Mitzi May is here. How you doing? Happy Tuesday evening to you too. Rain Dancer 1980. One of the newest members in green. Look at that. Look at that. Thank you for the membership. Thank you, Mark, for that. And I'm trying to find some names that I haven't said hi to. Well, at least we're past 8 o'clock now. Ellen is here. Hi, Ellen. Good to see you. Scooby the dog. And we have Bruce Outreach Thrift. There's one I haven't seen before. Welcome. Glad you could make it. Good evening to you. Good evening to you. Bill Cook. Tom, another Tampa person. Viking 442. Hi, Tom. How you doing? Good to see you here tonight. And Jason H. Welcome to you, sir. Sandra McDonald. Live on DC, learning to live. Oh, okay, I don't know what that means, but I'm sure Charger Mopar does. And let's see who I haven't said hi to yet. Dorothy Morse from Wisconsin. Yeah, it's chilly. It's not supposed to be chilly here in August, but they were getting some unusually cold weather up north, and we've even had some fronts. They're kind of helping keep the storms out of Florida. And who haven't I said hi to? Here's one. Sam Lipsit. Sam Lipsit. Hi, Sam. Welcome. Another golfer, evidently. Josephine C. is here. Hi, Josephine. Good to see you and Mama Crackers with us tonight. Good to see you. Tammy Pitarch is here. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Tammy. It's nice that I recognize all these names. That's great. Good to see you all. And Dixie Scott is here. Hi. Hi, Dixie. How you doing tonight? And I think we've got Sherry Morgan. How you doing, Sherry? From California. I mean, I could keep going forever down this chat. It's just just keeps going. But I think that you've probably had enough of this. Scooby. Now, if you want to ask some questions in the chat, type 3 capital Q's, not question marks, just 3 Q's, Q Q Q, and I'll be able to search them out. I didn't put together a list of things that I wanted to talk about tonight. I've been just busy all day, just going. Trying to figure out what I'm going to do at 15 dozen eggs. I've seen some suggestions in the comments. Somebody said make pickled eggs out of them, and that would be a great idea, but I don't like pickled eggs. So unfortunately, I don't like hard-boiled eggs. I got to eat them. I don't know, and if anybody has a really good idea about how long eggs stay good in the refrigerator, put it in the chat here and let me know. And to get my attention, even put 3 Q's in front of it so I'll find it. I think they're good for quite a while. If you got a nice cold refrigerator, I think the eggs will last quite a while. I hope this egg shortage doesn't last too long. I think these things, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I think these things don't just happen by accident. They happen with gasoline all the time. They create shortages, they create scares, prices go way up, and then the prices come down, but they never come down to where they were before. They always end up higher, and our mindset thinks, well, it was $10 a dozen yesterday, so $4 a dozen is cheap. And it wasn't too long ago that I used to pay 60 cents a dozen for eggs at Aldi, and that price held for years, 60 cents a dozen. People from businesses would hit Aldi in the morning and load up, especially bakeries, and they would go out with 100, 200 dozen eggs piled up high in a shopping cart at 60 cents a dozen. They couldn't get them wholesale for that price. And I asked Aldi, I said, why are your eggs so cheap? And not all the Aldis had exactly the same price on the eggs. It differed wildly. If I drove to the Aldi a few miles away, the eggs might be $1.50 a dozen there. And yet at my Aldi, they were always 60 cents, always 60 cents. And the reason that the manager of the Aldi told me is that they have to match or beat any price on eggs of any store within a certain small mile radius. And it so happens that less than a mile away from the Aldi is a big Walmart. And that Walmart always just gives away eggs. And Aldi was forced to beat their price by a couple of cents. So they were always cheap. And they're still cheaper than most places. But I paid $32, paid $32 for 15 dozen eggs. That's just $2 and some change for a dozen eggs, which is a lot more than I used to pay for them, but it was still cheap enough. So I figured, all right, the only eggs I could find were in these big cardboard boxes, 15 dozen eggs. It was either have no eggs or buy 15 dozen. So I figured even if I managed to get through half of them before they go bad, it's still not that much money. And eggs, for me, are one of the mainstays of doing carnivore. I eat them almost every day, 5 or 6 eggs every day. It's, when you think about it, at the prices I pay for eggs, 5 or 6 eggs cost me around $1, $1.50 tops. Half a pound of bacon, couple bucks. So it's cheap. and it's just jam-packed with nutrition. It's a great, great food. The eggs will come back. The price might be a little higher. Depends on the market. But we went through this, I remember 2 years ago. We had the bird flu thing, same thing. And it was, and it went away and the prices came back down. But meanwhile, I got more eggs than I know what to do with here. I see we got a couple of super chats in. Thank you so much, guys. Let me see if I can locate them and acknowledge them. Wow. I have to find them on this particular chat. Here we go. The first one, my friend Mark Davis. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. I have to drive 45 minutes to get to a Costco or Sam's. Which one is best to join for those smoked salmon slabs? I know you'll feel sorry for me. Mark, you're the last guy on the planet I feel sorry for, my friend. You got a great life. I would go with Sam's Club, absolutely. That's where I buy the salmon. I let my Costco membership lapse in February. I'm going to renew it because I use their optical department. It's $60 to renew. But the reason that I have Sam's and the reason I shop mostly at Sam's is, number one, Costco has no equivalent membership that lets you in 2 hours before they officially open at 8 o'clock in the morning. In order to go to Costco, I got to go at 10 o'clock. And by 10 o'clock, they're already lined up around the block outside to get in. The place is a madhouse. I go to Sam's. I'm usually the first one, and I make a beeline for the markdown meat, which they put out before they open, and God, it's worth it. Costs $120 for membership. But if you get the Sam's credit card, and you get the Plus membership, you get 5% back on everything you buy, including gasoline. And their gasoline is always 20 cents to 30 cents a gallon cheaper than the cheapest gas in town. So what I save on gasoline, plus I get an additional 5% back. And if you use that Sam's Club credit card at any gas station, doesn't even have to be Sam's, you'll get a 5% cash back from the credit card company on the purchase of gas. And with that Plus membership, you get in at 8 o'clock in the morning. And if you've seen my videos from Sam's Club, it's me and an empty store. And that's just the way I like to shop, because when I go shopping, I'm on a mission. I'm moving at twice the speed of humanity. Nobody in my way. I get to the markdown meats. I can take my time and look over it and find what I think might be the best stuff. They have the markdown wild-caught fish at Sam's Club, the cod, the salmon, and I can get that stuff marked down. They have pretty good ribs. They don't have the meat selection that Costco has, but God, their prices, I think, are much better, and I think the meat is as good. So I would recommend Sam's Club, but check them both out. You can walk in there and walk up to the customer service, say, I want to see the store, I want to check it out. They'll give you a pass to wander around and look at everything, and then you decide. But the Sam's has got it hands down because of the fact that you can get in early. So thank you, Mark. Thank you very much for that. I also have one here from Kitchen Witch, 1885. How you doing? Oh, thank you so much. 4 eggs. Thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. Very, very, very nice of you. Thank you. And Sherry Morgan is here. Hi, Sherry. How you doing? You can crack the eggs and freeze them. You know, I read that somebody told me that you can crack them open and freeze them. Sous vide egg bites with bacon. Thanks for being you, Mitch. Who else would I be? I'm stuck with this. But thank you so much, Sherry. And that's something I might consider. I I didn't eat any. I didn't eat any eggs today because we went to lunch and ate enough for two of us. So it was kind of an OMAD kind of day, one meal a day. But it was great. I'm certainly still not hungry, but I'm telling you, I'm going to hit those eggs. I'm going to have half a dozen eggs and bacon around 11 o'clock to noon tomorrow. Get back on my schedule. Thank you so much, Sherry. Much appreciated. Let me continue to go down the chat here and see. Sandra McDonald says that Australia has the same problem with eggs. Banning cage-laid hit most countries hard. I know that they're blaming this avian flu for it, and that may be true. But when I Googled it today, I said, why is there an egg shortage? And I kind of put the screenshot from that in my video this morning talking about the egg shortage, and it came up with all kinds. They're still blaming the pandemic from 4 years ago for the egg shortage. Normally when you go into Sam's Club, there's eggs floor to ceiling, stacked up on racks, on pallets, pasture-raised eggs, cage-free eggs, regular white eggs, restaurant-sized cartons like I bought with 15 dozen eggs in them. Grade A white eggs. And I went in there today and there was nothing. And I hadn't been in Sam's in about a week, and people tell me that it's been going on like that. But they did have the cartons, and they probably had 15 or 20 of these boxes full of eggs. And so I bought one and stacked them up in my refrigerator. I showed you the picture of that. Do I have that picture? Do I have that picture here handy? No. I thought I might, but I don't. Here we go. Tammy's got a question. Okay, lasts longer than you would think. If you want to make sure it's good, put it in a glass, fill with water. If it floats, toss it. Thank you, Tammy. That's a great tip. I never thought of that. Either that or if a chicken pops out, one or the other. Probably tell me it's not going to make a good omelet anymore, but. Thanks so much for that, Tammy. I appreciate it. And Sandra agrees with Tammy, so we have that validated from two different directions. That's great. That's great. And Lynn is here. She says, I have chickens on my small farm, stuffed eggs. You can scramble eggs and freeze them in ice cube trays and use for later. Just thaw them and you can't tell the difference. So basically, you don't want to freeze an egg, if I understand this correctly. You don't want to freeze an egg in its shell. You want to crack it. So if the way I do it, of course, is I put them in a measuring cup and I beat them up to make my omelets. So if I were to, say, crack a half a dozen eggs, beat them up, maybe pour them into a Ziploc bag, squeeze all the air out of it, stick it in the freezer, that would be okay. If that's the case, I won't worry about it. But I really would rather be buying the brown pasture-raised eggs. They have a little more yellow-orange oak. I think they're probably better, even though they may not be like right off the family farm. I'm sure they might have a little more nutrition in them than the white eggs. But an egg is an egg, and if all I can find is white eggs, by God, I'm eating white eggs. It's better than all the other stuff that people are eating. Rain Dancer says that they're $4.25 here a dozen. Well, that's what I buy. The pasture-raised eggs from Sam's come in trays of 1.5 dozen. 18 eggs, and they're just under $5. So for pasture-raised brown eggs, that's not a bad price, and I'm certainly willing to pay that. They went up about $1 in the past year, but not too bad. And Primo Stoker says eggs always get laid. Lucky them. Lucky them. Rain Dancer says to make quiche. Quiche is good. It's kind of very similar to the frittata. Cliff says that he eats, like me, 6 eggs and 6 strips of bacon. I eat 4 or 5 strips of that extra thick Wright's bacon. That's about a half a pound. That's enough. Ellen says she wishes she could eat eggs. I get Thursday night, Ellen, come on and tell me why you can't eat eggs. Hope you pardon the silence. I do want to read and interact with the chat, but sometimes I need to stop talking for a second. Okay. Let me go over to, Sherry. Here you go. It's another. Sherry, thank you, Sherry. Pair them with roasted bone marrow. I posted a video about bone marrow roasting yesterday. Thanks for the ideas the other night. I guess I don't know I don't know if I gave you ideas, but I think there's a lot of people in the chat put a lot of good information, a lot of good ideas. Because most of the people that are in the chats in these live streams are people that are doing carnivore successfully. It's a shame out of the thousands and tens of thousands of people. This is always the thrust of my channel. It's a shame. Anyway, thank you, Sherry. Thank you so much. It's a shame that the numbers aren't better. It's a shame that out of 36,000 people over the past year that have subscribed to my channel, and my channel, is definitely not a keto channel. It is an anti-keto. You got to be carnivore if you're a carb addict channel. That's the main thrust of my message. Out of those 36,000 people, I have a core base of followers that number in, if I'm lucky, the hundreds. Out of all of those people, and they subscribed because they got excited. Some of them I scared away. That's okay. But it's really sad, and it's sad commentary. And I talk a lot about it, and I'm going to be talking more about it. I've made a lot of notes about videos that I want to make, talking about the sad fact that most people, for so many reasons that I understand, but maybe you don't understand, are doomed before they even start on this for so many reasons. The biggest of those is their addiction. And I talk a lot about addiction till I'm blue in the face, but it is the reason why people can't do this. The thought of giving up all that stuff that is so comforting to eat, that tastes so delicious, that your social life and every activity you do revolves around this huge variety of these, and I'll call them comfort foods because they do give you that pleasure in eating them. The concept of never eating them again for the rest of your life scares most people away. They start and they make it for a week, 3 days, 10 days maybe. But then the outside forces, the cravings, the bad advice they're getting from everybody telling them they're killing themselves, their cholesterol, scare, everything, just knocks them right off of it. And what we're left with is a hardcore of a few hundred people in my community that are carnivores, and have given themselves the time. This is the key. Given themselves and their physiology the time to fix itself, to become a fat burner, not a sugar burner, to convince your brain that when your sugar gets low, you're not starving to death, and it stops giving you these craving signals all the time. And after a while, and it doesn't happen overnight, can take years, but within 30 days or so, those cravings will be reduced drastically, where you can probably control them by just eating more meat when you're hungry. And after 6 months or a year, you won't have those cravings anymore, and you will have cured your carbohydrate addiction, and you will be one of a tiny percentage of humans on this planet that aren't addicted to sugar anymore, because everybody is. I went as an exercise today. I went to Google, and you can try this, and it's very, very interesting. I typed into Google, well, let me, just for fun here, give me a second to set this up. Let's just go through this exercise, because it's fascinating, and it says so much. It says so much about what people think is true. What people think is true. So let me, bear with me, let me go over here and get this Google thing. And let me type in how many alcoholics are in the USA. Okay. And this says here, according to Medicine Plus, about 18 million adults in the United States have an alcohol use disorder. They've given it a name now. They consider it a disease. It's an addiction, which can range from mild to severe. Severe AUD is sometimes called alcoholism or alcohol dependence. AUD can cause cravings, loss of control, and negative emotional states. Males ages 12 and older, 12.1%. Females ages 12 and older, 8.3%. So we're up to over 20%. American Indian or Alaskan Natives. And it breaks it down to how many alcoholics there are. There's a lot of alcoholics. It's an addiction. The reason so many alcoholics can't fix it, the reason so many of them that go to AA meetings end up falling, in fact, I think that's where the phrase off the wagon came from alcohol, the alcoholics. The reason is they're addicted, which means they get comfort. They get comfort from drinking. It makes them feel better. It's not good for them, but it makes them feel better. Most of them don't want to admit they're even alcoholics because they don't want to give up something that makes them feel better. I can understand that. But it's an addiction. Same thing with drug users. With all the money we've put into programs in this country, the war on drugs, we still have more people today using drugs than ever before, because the drugs, they get cravings, uncontrollable, they get pleasure from using the drugs, the fear of saying, I don't want to live without that pleasure in my life anymore. Because in so many cases of addiction, that pleasure is the greatest pleasure that these people get. And asking somebody to give up the thing that brings them the most pleasure in life, it's like asking them to go stop living. It's scary, and they don't want to consider it. It usually takes some kind of a rude awakening, a medical emergency, some doctor saying your liver is shot from all that drinking and you need to stop drinking now and we need to get you on a transplant list. And even in that case, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop a lot of people. They still will not give it up. So it is a big problem. There are tens of millions of people that have this problem. It's a recognized problem. They've given it medical sounding names: alcohol use disorder. Okay, if I were to type in here how many drug users, how many heroin, how do you spell heroin? H-E-R-O, that's close enough. How many heroin users are there in the United States? H-E-R-O-I-N, okay. How many heroin users in the United States? An estimated 2.5 million people aged 18 or older have an opioid use disorder. We've got a name for that too. We've got a scientific name for that. Only 1 in 5 U.S. adults with opioid use disorder receive medications too. I guess they're talking about methadone and that. Okay. Now, how many carbohydrate addicts? How many carbohydrate addicts are in the USA? Boom. Yes, how many carbohydrate addicts? Well, the first thing it says, America is ignoring carbohydrate addiction. Great. Bill Schubert, okay? 34 million Americans have diabetes, it says there. Chances are all 34 million of those people are carbohydrate addicts, which is why they have diabetes. But here's the question. They've already changed the term carbohydrate addicts to food addicts. And this is something that I noticed. How many people in the U.S. have a food addiction? And I'm sorry, I don't think that food addiction is a thing. I don't think people are addicted to food. Are people addicted to broccoli? Anybody? Anybody addicted to Brussels sprouts? Anybody addicted to carrots? Anybody addicted to ribeyes? I don't think so. I don't see people jonesing for a carrot. I don't see people jonesing for any meat whatsoever. The only, quote, food that I see people jonesing for is sugar, is carbohydrates. When you read the nutritional advice, they actually separate out sugar and carbs as separate things. There are so many people out there that believe that a carbohydrate isn't sugar. Chemically, all carbohydrates are just long chains. The complex carbohydrates are just long chains of sugar molecules. The minute they hit your mouth and the enzyme amylase hits them, it breaks them apart and they become sugar. Most plants are mostly carbohydrate. Certainly all fruits are. all grains and everything made from grains or made from flour is almost 100% carbs, which means it's sugar. So people aren't addicted to food. People are not addicted to food. People are addicted to sugar. And that's the problem we have. But they keep wanting to pretty it up and make it sound like something different because nobody in our society wants to fix this problem. They just don't want to fix it. Here's a question. Is there such a thing as carb addiction? In at least a subset of vulnerable individuals, high glycemic index carbs trigger addiction. Well, there's an admission that high glycemic carbohydrates, which are carbohydrates that aren't broccoli and asparagus. They're pasta, they're bread, they're anything made out of flour, they're anything made out of sugar, they're any sugary soft drinks, they're anything with fructose in them, they're anything with glucose in them. So yes, these things. What is the most addictive food in America? Every person has different food preferences, but most will agree that 7 of the most addictive foods are pizza, chocolate, potato chips, ice cream, French fries, cake, and cheeseburgers. And it ain't the meat in a cheeseburger that's addicting people. It's the bread and the ketchup and all the other crap that people put on it. These are all carbohydrates. And yet, I don't see scientific names for these things. I don't see treatment centers for carbohydrate addiction. I don't see therapy centers where you can go away for 30 days like you can for drug or alcohol use. We don't treat this. We don't treat this as an addiction, and we need to. And just from my observations of people that can't do carnivore. And what's a better way to gauge the real number of people that are carb addicts than the number of people who start a carnivore diet and fail? I guess you could even throw keto in there, but I think keto is a time bomb for a carb addict because they're allowed carbs. And just like you can't, if you're an alcoholic trying to kick alcohol, you can't allow yourself any alcohol, not even a thimbleful. But keto gives people who just can't imagine living without the carbs a way that they can justify still having these carbs. And they abuse that privilege. They're not eating broccoli or Brussels sprouts or asparagus with their carbs. They're finding the recipes from all of the keto people on YouTube that are telling you how to make pizza, how to make cakes, how to make keto mashed potatoes, how to make keto pasta, how to make keto pizza sauce, how to make all of these keto versions of foods that just feed your addiction. And you fail, and you fail. If you're a carbohydrate addict, there are still a few people running around that we all want to kill. These are the people that say, I don't understand why you have a problem with sugar. I don't like sugar. I don't like sweets. I don't ever eat anything sweet. Well, you want to kill them. You want to strangle them because they don't deserve to live. But the sad fact for those people is they get no pleasure from the sugar. So they're not giving up anything. They're not suffering from not feeding their addiction. They don't have it. And I can understand exactly how that is because I feel the same way about alcohol. I'm one of the few people that doesn't like alcohol. I never did. I drank a little in my life socially because people do, but I never enjoyed it. I never needed a drink. I never said, I got to have a drink. I need to have a drink. Got home and went right for the bottle. I never did that. I don't like it. It does nothing for me. I think it tastes bad. So what these people who don't like sweets do is the same thing would be like me going up to an alcoholic and saying, I don't understand you. I don't get you. How the hell can you just not stop drinking? I don't need to drink, and I wouldn't be surprised if their hands weren't firmly planted around my neck. Because if you're not an addict, you can't understand. And I think that in this country, based on the failure rate of carnivore and keto, which is well over 90% and maybe even closer to 95, 6, or 7% of the people who start these things cannot do it. That means, in my estimation, that almost everybody now in the Western world is a carb addict. We are addicted to this, and I believe it is the most addictive substance a human being can put in their body. Our entire society, our entire entertainment sphere, all of our activities are built around eating garbage food now. And the reason people fail is they can't do it. They can't do it long enough for their physiology to actually fix itself so that that dependence on sugar goes away. I could lecture on this for hours and tell you exactly why I've done that and where that comes from our ancestral past, our relationship with sugar as survival food. It's very easily understood, but very hard to explain to somebody that doesn't think like that, cause and effect. So when I look at the 128 people that are here now, I have to say to myself, and I look at how many of you are really hard into this community, are members of the private community, helping each other, chatting, doing all that stuff. When I see how many of you, the number is very small, and I have to say to myself, well, either people aren't succeeding or I'm not that great a YouTuber and people don't like me, so they don't come to my live streams. I think that based on the number of subscribers I've gotten over this past year and the number of active people who are succeeding on carnivore and can say, I've been a carnivore for a year, I've been a carnivore for a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I have no desire to eat that stuff anymore. And what's happened to me, which I never thought would happen. Never in a million years thought this would happen to me. I know that it's possible, and it's what I talk about all the time. Here we go. We got one from Mark Davis. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Thank you, my friend. I had chicken liver the other day. You like chicken liver? I'm Mitch's favorite moron. You're not a moron. I saw the Elvis picture in your workout room and watching a video. Did you ever see him in concert? You know, never. It's an interesting question, Mark. I never saw Elvis. I've seen so many celebrities in the course of my life in person. I've seen Neil Diamond. I've seen the Bee Gees. I've seen Frank Sinatra in concert. Almost all the great jazz stars, because I love jazz. Seen them in concert. James Taylor, saw him in concert. I saw Frank Sinatra's 80th birthday concert in Vegas. But I never saw Elvis. Never saw Elvis. And all of those pictures that I have in my studio, in my office, came from my restaurant. Thank you, Mark. Came from my restaurant. And the theme of my fish and chips restaurant when I had it was Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley, James Dean, and that era of entertainers. And when I closed the restaurant, I sold off most of those pictures. People wanted to buy them. But I ended up keeping about 20 or 30 of them. And I got them all over the walls around here. And they were expensive to get them made and get them framed. But I still like them, and it reminds me of the glory days. So that's where they came from. And Sherry, another question. Oh, not true. You tell me that you're not addicted. You can binge on bison, sardines, and broccoli. Dr. Elise has a group for those who binge on beef. Well, sooner or later, when you're eating beef, the satiety hormones are going to kick in, I would think. I still, just because you want to eat a lot of it, I don't think that makes it an addictive substance. Listen, I could be wrong. I have a T-shirt that admits that I may be wrong. It's underneath there. It says, but I doubt it. But I think in the true definition of an addiction, if you find yourself in your car at 3 o'clock in the morning looking for a 24-hour market because you can't wait till tomorrow to have that particular substance, yes, maybe your physiology has figured out a reason why you might be addicted to it. But when I think back at all the times where I would wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the night, having already had a half a gallon of ice cream that evening, with a craving for more ice cream at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, this really happened, and it happened to me on a regular basis. And interestingly enough, this is the way it would go. This is what would happen. I'm trying to be on a low-carb diet, but I couldn't give up. I couldn't give up the treats. I just couldn't give up the treats. I couldn't do it. I tried to make all the low-carb treats. I learned how to make banana bread with almond flour and all kinds of stuff like that. I went out and bought these little waffle makers so I could make chaffles. And they were better if you used almond flour in them. Although you can make them with just egg and cheese, they had a more bread-like texture when you put the almond flour in. And I was making chaffles, and I was making banana bread with almond flour. I'm sure it still had plenty of carbs. And I would crush up walnuts and almonds and put them in there. And I would get these dark chocolate little bits that you put in chocolate chip cookies, and I'd put a bunch of them in there. And I would swear, I'm just going to eat 1/2 inch slice of this. It never lasted. It never lasted till bedtime. I would always eat the whole thing. I would go buy a box of these bars, these Atkins bars, or these keto bars, or Cliff bars, or all these supposedly healthy protein bars. And I would eat the entire box. Once I took the first bite, I had to eat them until they were gone. And then when they were gone, I had to fight the urge not to run out to the store again, because I knew that I couldn't help myself, and I had to not have them in the house. But I couldn't resist them in the stores. So having maybe had ice cream with the intention of only having a small cup of ice cream, putting it back in the freezer, I learned before too long about myself that once I opened that, however big a container, I don't care if it was a half gallon, it would be gone. But I also learned that there became a point when I was eating it, that for a very short period of time, I didn't want to eat anymore. I was starting to feel kind of sick from all that sugar, whatever it was. I said, okay, that's enough. But I learned, interestingly enough, I mean, this sounds sick, but this is how bad a carb addict I was. I learned that if I stopped eating because I'd had enough and put it back in the freezer, I was good for about 20 minutes. Honest to God, 20 minutes. I'm heading back for the freezer. And I would finish it. If it was a half a gallon. And when I went to the store to buy it, it was always with the intention of just a pint. Just a pint. And I thought I was outsmarting everybody because I would buy the highest fat ice cream there was, because I knew that eating carbs with fat made them absorb slower. Thank you, Barry Sears, for that. You got to eat the fat with the carbs to slow down the digestion of it. Turns out eating fat and carbs together is not really a great thing to do, but who knew? So what I learned was that when I got to the point where I'd had enough and was feeling a little sick from all that sugar, and I would take what was left in the bottom of that half gallon, maybe a quarter of it was left, and I'd turn the hot water on in the sink, and I'd pour it into the sink and let it melt down the drain. And it was gone, because I knew that if I didn't get rid of it, if I didn't get rid of it, 20 minutes later, I'm going back to finish it. And then invariably, half an hour later, I'd be kicking myself in the ass. Why did you throw that away? You want it. And more often than not, I would find myself driving to the store to buy more because I had thrown away that other stuff. That shows you that I had no control, because I would be talking to myself the whole way and rationalizing why it was okay. Well, this is really stupid, Mitch. You're driving to the store to buy another half a gallon of ice cream when you just threw away what was left because you didn't want to eat it. But now these cravings are overwhelming you. You're in your car. It's late at night. You're driving to the store to buy more ice cream. What the hell is wrong with you? I didn't turn around. I went to the store. I bought more ice cream. And that was a story of my life when I was on the non-dieting phases of gaining the weight back. And that would go on for months. And then I'd hit 200 pounds again or something like that. And I'd get thoroughly disgusted with myself, kick myself in the ass, go back on a strict low-carb diet. And as long as I didn't eat that first bite of that stuff, didn't drink the artificially sweetened things, didn't make myself the keto treats, and just tried to eat the meat and the veggies, I was okay, and I could lose weight, and I would, over 6 months, I would lose all that weight, get back to 150 pounds. And then once I got to 150 pounds, I would say, congratulations, Mitch, you've done it. This calls for a celebration. You're entitled to a treat. It's been 6 months since you had any ice cream, and all it took was one bite. And off I go again. 15 times at least in my lifetime, I played that game of cycling up and down. And it wasn't until doing keto for a couple of years and realizing that making all of the keto treats and making all these recipes that I see all over YouTube, even if I was keeping my carb count below 20 grams a day, but I was falling for the same tricks as everybody else. Net carbs, they said, because you can't count the fiber because it's not soluble. So yes, it might really have 50 grams of total carbs, but it's only got 15 grams of net carbs, so it's okay. Made no difference. Triggered the old addiction. My brain's too smart for that. Not my conscious brain, my subconscious. It knows that I'm trying to fool it. It knows that I'm trying to little sleight of hand on it, making it, wanting it to think that I'm eating all that satisfying, comforting food, and yet it can't find any of the stuff in it that it's looking for, especially the sugar. And it says, no, you're not getting away with this. And the cravings would hit, and I'm helpless again. Finally, And I think it took my head injury, it took me being in the hospital, it took me recovering from that and not dieting and putting on 30 or 40 pounds, that when I finally got to that point 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I said, this is an addiction. 75 years old, and I finally had that epiphany. The bells finally went off. This is an addiction. This is not a food addiction. This is not just lack of willpower. This is like alcoholism. This is like drug addiction. This is an addiction. You have all the hallmarks of it. And I've been studying addiction and treating addiction. And the only way to treat an addiction is abstinence. That's the one hard, fast law. If you don't abstain completely from a substance that you're addicted to, you cannot kick the addiction. Your body will not let you. You will never get used to living without that substance as long as you have a taste of it every once in a while. Alcoholics will admit that to you. They know they don't dare have a thimble full of alcohol. It won't be long before they're diving in the bottle. Even the ones that drink the non-alcoholic beer, they think they're fooling themselves. Doesn't last long. It doesn't last long. You don't get the satisfaction out of it. You don't get the chemicals that your body is expecting. And without even thinking, you're going for the real beer again. You can't do it. Smokers have the same problem. So they use nicotine patches. Many other nicotine chewing gum. And yeah, maybe they stop inhaling the smoke, but they're still giving their body what the addiction needs. But a smoker who tries to quit, who says, I'm just going to cut back to 3 cigarettes a day, it never works. It never works. There's too much to it. Too many other actions that they have are associated with those addictions. And that's true about carb addiction, too. It's very true about carb addiction. It isn't just the chemical things that we're addicted to. It's the associated activities that trigger those addictions. Like going to a movie theater. That's automatic. How can you sit in a movie theater and watch a movie without a 2-gallon big gulp thing of sugary soda and a 55-gallon drum of popcorn, which is pure sugar? This movie night at home for the TV, what's the most important thing? The snacks. Watching a football game on TV with you, inviting your friends over. What's the most important thing? It's not the football game. It's the eating and the drinking and those associated things. So not only do you have to give up this food that you get so much pleasure out of, but then they're asking you or telling you that you have to give up all of the activities that remind you of that food. Smokers associate a cigarette with their morning coffee, for example. It's impossible for them to pour themselves a cup of coffee without having a cigarette. They go hand in hand. So it makes it even harder to give up these things because these things become associated with our daily lives and the comfort that we gain. So you've not only got an addiction, but you've got an addiction tied to a habit. No wonder none of us make it. None of us make it. Now, what I discovered and what I keep harping on is the absolute miracle, and I use the word miracle with no religious connotation whatsoever. It is a miracle of chemistry. That when our physiology gets the nourishment it needs from the animal foods and the animal fats, all that stuff, all those pathways, all those reasons that are buried in our programming that cause us to crave the sugars, they will go away. And you'll find yourself wondering, why the hell was that stuff ever important to me? I don't want it now. I don't think about it now. I like what I'm eating now better. And this happens, and it happens to most of us who've succeeded on this. But you can't get somebody who hasn't experienced it to believe it, and I didn't believe it either when I first started this. I just took a shot at this. And luckily, with my little theory of binge eating on meat until you can control your addictions, not worrying about the scale, not worrying about how much you weigh, not worrying about anything except letting your body's chemistry get back to the way it's supposed to work. That worked for me. That was a great discovery that helped me over that hump for somebody who's severely addicted to sugar, as I am, to be able to kick it. And after 2 years, it is an absolute miracle. And I've become kind of like a carnivore evangelist. I want to share the good news, but people don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. You tell them right of it, well, you know that pizza stuff, forget it. Forget it. You're never going to have that ever again for the rest of your life. You can't. And all those other foods, and they say, well, what can I eat? Well, you can eat meat. You can eat eggs, fish, chicken, pork. Some people can eat dairy and maybe some hard cheese. Well, what else can I eat? Well, that's it. I say, are you crazy? And you know that. They all think we're crazy. But we know the people that have transformed ourselves back to what humans are supposed to live like. We know that it's real, that it actually works. And we're so happy about it that we want to tell everybody. And the more people we tell about it, the crazier they think we are. And that's why on my channel, that's all you'll hear me talking about. You're not going to find recipes on my channel for carnivore mashed potatoes. I'm trying to come up with, I was telling Michael today at lunch, I said, where can I find a hot dog? Just a hot dog that does not have crap in it anymore. And he told me that there's just south of me, a Sprouts, and they have beef hot dogs made out of grass-fed beef, and they don't have any crap in them. So I'm going to run around, I'm going to try to find these hot dogs. Now, I don't know how much seasoning or garlic or other things they might have in them, but I'm trying to find me a 100% carnivore, pure hot dog, no seed oils mixed in, no grains mixed in, no soy mixed in, even Hebrew National now, all beef hot dogs have more crap in them that I'm not going to eat. And I'm going to take this hot dog when I find it. And I'm going to take a wooden skewer and I'm going to stick it right in that thing. See where I'm going with this? And I'm going to take some egg and I'm going to roll this hot dog around in this egg. And then I'm going to coat this hot dog with pork rind crumbs. And then I'm going to put this hot dog on a stick, coated with pork rind crumbs, in my air fryer and cook it. And when I'm done, I'm going to have something that looks like a corn dog. It's not going to taste like a corn dog, but I have a funny feeling that it will be a real treat and 100% carnivore, no carbs. So I'm working on that. We'll see. I did it with chicken wings, the same thing now. I take the chicken wings, I put them in egg, I coat them with pork rinds, I air fry them. I take shrimp and do that and fry them in bacon grease. I make salmon patties out of canned wild-caught salmon, and I don't coat them with pork rinds, but I mix pork rinds and egg in them like you would making a meatloaf and fry them in bacon grease. And these things are a little variety and don't trigger any addictions of any kind or any habits of any kind, and does give us a few things that taste a little different and are satisfying. And I'll keep experimenting with those things. And they make carnivore a little bit easier for me, or a little bit, I don't want to say less boring, because carnivore is not boring. We sat around that table at that Brazilian restaurant today and ate lunch. And we ate like there was no tomorrow, but we ate nothing but beef and salt. And it was fabulous. And I didn't feel deprived at all. Each bite tasted as good as the next one until we got to a point where it stopped tasting fabulous. And that's one of the signs that you're satisfied. Your hunger's gone away. You just naturally want to stop eating, like every animal on the planet does who eats its natural diet in the wild. They know when they're hungry, when they need to eat, and they know exactly when to walk away. They don't have clean plate clubs or any of that other stuff that we've invented. And that's how they eat. That's how they eat. Let me go into this chat here and search for the questions, because I just get pontificating here. Hang on a second. So we want to hit this and Q. And Bill Cook says, how many birds die in the USA every year from pesticides? Well, I don't know the relevance of that question to carnivore, but I imagine there might be a ton of them. We talk about how many living things die when they prepare a field for monocropping. When they get done poisoning the soil, killing the worms and the grubs and all the small animals, to the point where they've created a huge field, many acres, that when you stop and listen, you hear absolutely nothing. It is dead quiet, no signs of life, no insects, no nothing. It is dead. And then they plant their crops in it. They talk about us killing a cow to eat it. Each one of us could live on a cow or two a year. In order to grow a huge field of soybeans, they kill millions, if not billions, of living things. Talk about mass murder, farming, agriculture. It's amazing. It's almost like a bottomless cup of coffee. It just keeps going. It's almost gone. Cold as hell, but almost gone. There we go. Thank you very much. Got to the bottom of it. Let's see if we have any more questions here. So we will hit that button again. Okay, here's a question for everyone. Your favorite movies and why? Spanky, I'm going to let everybody answer that in the chat. I've talked about my favorite movies. And let's see, we got any more questions here? I don't see a lot of QQQs. Bob Casey, I see. I don't know if you're still here or when you put this, but Bob Casey, Ariel, hi, Professor Mitch. Bob Casey's a good friend of mine from the drone days, and he's the one that coined the term Professor Mitch, and I became known in that drone community as Professor Mitch because I like to teach people things, and I loved to teach things about drones and how to build them and how to fly them and tune them and make them work, and used to love that stuff. But I'm going to try to go down to the bottom of the chat and search for questions again. There's the favorite movie question. I'm not seeing them. Not seeing the QQQs. Here we go. Way down at the bottom of the chat. Steve Studley, question, can you talk to us about brain fog? Yeah. I don't know if I'm any more of an expert than anybody else about brain fog, but a lot of people have it. I think it's been pretty well explained by a lot of the scientists and doctors, and they basically talk about what the brain needs to be metabolically healthy. And our brain is made primarily of fat and cholesterol. Those things that society is working to keep us from eating. The animal fats, the right kind of fats, and working through drugs and treatments to keep trying to lower the level of our cholesterol that our liver is trying to manufacture because it needs it to do things. We don't make anything in our body we don't need. If our liver wants to produce lipoproteins and cholesterol, there's a reason for that. And our brains need cholesterol. In fact, the need for cholesterol in our brain is so important and so prioritized in the human animal that our brain actually makes its own cholesterol rather than just relying on what the liver produces. Our brain makes its own cholesterol. But so many of these statins actually penetrate the blood-brain barrier that they inhibit the brain's production of cholesterol. And what does cholesterol do? What does cholesterol do in the brain? It's used to make what they call myelin sheaths. And if you could imagine an electric wire with some rubber insulation around the metal conductor in the center, that's an equivalent of what a myelin sheath is. And our brain is made up of all of these different neurons, and these neurons are all connected to each other. A neural network. And electrical signals, just like in the wire that goes to your lamp, are traveling along these neurons, interconnected with other neurons, and that's the computer of our brain. And the cholesterol making the myelin sheath is keeping these neurons from shorting out by touching other neurons. It would be like stripping all the insulation off all the wires in your house and plugging everything in. Well, pack your suitcase because your house is burning down pretty quickly. If there was no insulation on any of the wiring in your house would go up in flames. Everything would short out. Nothing would work. All your circuit breakers would blow, but nothing would work. And that's what's happening in our brains. We require these connections between neurons to think clearly. And by not having the proper building blocks and raw materials to build that insulation in our wiring in our brains don't work. That's part of it. You add to the fact that our brains require a lot of energy to work. That energy has to come from our mitochondria. When our mitochondria are not getting the raw materials they need to produce energy, we have a lack of energy, especially in our brain as well. So you got a low energy brain that's short circuiting all over the place. And you're just not, things aren't going to work right. You're not going to think clearly. And if you want, you can also add oxidative stress. You can sugarcoat everything with what they call glycating effects of glucose, of sugar, and nothing works. We're a mess. We're a mess, yet somehow life still keeps going on, but we deteriorate. We deteriorate. Our organs start to fail. We're low energy. And the answer to this is stop lowering your cholesterol, stop eating the sugar, eat the fats that you need, let your body do what it knows how to do, and make sure that the food that you're eating provides all of the raw materials that are necessary for all of these billions of chemical reactions that are happening every second in your body, to have the materials they need, where they need them, when they need them, so that these reactions can occur. And that, I think, we define as optimal health. So that's one of the reasons why you get sharper, you get smarter, you get more aware of things, clearer thinking, when you stop eating all the poisonous foods and start eating more and more, if not exclusively, of the foods like meat and fat, animal fat, that has everything that we need, because that's what we're built of. That's what we're built of. We are animals. We are made of meat and fat. There are other species of animals that consider us food. And that's true. To a shark, we're food. To a lion, we're food. We're nutritious. We're made out of all the stuff that they need to be healthy. If they can eat us, we can eat them. The plants aren't eating humans, and humans shouldn't be eating plants to any degree. So I hope that answers your question about the brain fog. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are scientists that can explain it maybe a little better than I just did, but I'm trying to explain it conceptually. Question, says Boyd Lamb. You might check out Bid on Beef auction. A way for me to get everybody to check it out, Mitch, not specifically you. Oh, more away from Bid on Beef auction. Is that something that we can Google, perhaps? Bid. Let me see what that says here. Bid on Beef auction. Bid on Beef, premium quality steaks for sale online. Okay, it's a website. I never heard of it. Bid on Beef, stake your claim. How is that clever? Stake your claim on the finest cuts in the country from American ranchers. Premium quality Angus and Wagyu for sale online. I've never bought any beef online. Create an account, pick an auction, bid. I'll check it out. I'm not going to recommend it to anybody till I check it out, but I didn't even know it existed. So thank you, man. Thank you for that. Some of these online auction things are not the place to get deals, but maybe. How long's this been around? Sponsored website. Join us. Okay. Thanks for the tip. I'll take a look at that. And anybody else that wants to take a look at it can as well. Bid on Beef. I see overweight now as starving people. Bill Cook says. Ellen says her brother and Sil just bought a half a cow, 300 pounds of steaks and ground beef. One of these days I may get really serious and try to find some local ranchers or farmers, but a cursory search turns up nothing for me. It always has. Never really turned up anything meaningful. And some of these, I'm sorry, but some of these online places, it's 4 times as expensive. Comes to you frozen and dry ice, and I don't know. I'm not convinced it's going to be all that much better than Sam's Club or Costco. And it would be great. It would be great to have a farm next door where I could buy half a cow and supervise how it was butchered. But I'm not, and most of us are not in a position to do these things in this society that we live in. We can't be Ken Berry. We don't have a family farm in Tennessee. We live in a city. We live with homeowners associations and deed restrictions. We can't have animals running around. We can't have chickens. We can't all go out and buy a farm. There's millions of people, hundreds of millions of people in this country that have to be fed somehow. They can't all become little independent farmers. I don't even think you can hardly make a living at that anymore. Society has not set itself up for us to be that way. Society has set us up to be in a line somewhere waiting for our ration of whatever it is they're going to allow us to have. It's sad, but maybe it's a good thing that everybody isn't a carnivore, because then imagine trying to find meat and how much you'd have to pay for it. I don't know, it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes I feel like when I walk into Sam's Club and see people eyeing the same meat I'm looking at, I want to tell them, shit's bad for you. Haven't you heard that causes diabetes? Brussels sprouts right over there, and then I grab the beef, I mean, who knows? Who knows? I'm giving up trying to predict the future for us, especially with the lunatics running things. But I'm not going to talk politics. I just hope people open their eyes, that's all. I'm still convinced that somebody out there has got half a brain. Maybe disappointed by that, though. Only thing I struggle with is saltine, crackers, and potatoes, says Yukon Striker. Well, I can understand that. I can understand that. I was on a saltine cracker kick for a while. And they come in a box about this long, and they have four sleeves generally in the box. And I would sit down in front of the TV and eat them a sleeve at a time. And there were nights I would go through an entire whole box of those things. You can't stop eating them once you start. They're highly processed, flour, made out of flour, and salt. And they have just the right mouthfeel, and they're scientifically designed to be as addictive as hell. And then you can put shit on them. You can put jam and sugar and all kinds of crap on them, and cheese. You can put cheese on them. You can put anything on them. Ritz crackers, same way. Wow, I used to binge on those. But the thing that I binged on more than anything else in the cracker department, and for me, the single most addictive food that I could not stop eating once I started were Cheez-Its. Cheez-It crackers. I'm telling you, I don't care how big the box was. The minute I ripped that cellophane open, inside that box was gone. And I'd be sick from eating all that stuff. At any rate, I don't have those cravings anymore, which is why I'm here talking to you guys. It's been amazing for me. I see a couple of questions. How many eggs did you eat today, says Bill Cook. I ate no eggs today because I went to lunch at the Brazilian steakhouse and stuffed my face full of steak and red meat. But I will eat eggs tomorrow, that's for sure, and the next day, and the day after that. But today we had a meetup, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. It was very, very, very interesting, and I'm certainly going to go to work and start planning a few meetups around here, around Florida. See how many of you guys we can make an outing and all get together, because that was just fun. Just fun. So another question. Mitch, my local rancher has a website. They say they can deliver to the Great 48. Maybe pricey, as meat isn't cheap here. This Linda Price says it. Look up Sweet Mercy Farms if you're interested. Okay. I'm still, from what I've seen of these deals, it's fabulously expensive, much more than what I pay for meat. Because I take advantage of the markdown stuff. I take advantage of Publix's 2 or 3 sales a year where they mark down rib roasts or prime rib, ribeye, where you can slice them up into ribeyes to a third of what they normally sell for. And I still have some of that in the freezer from over a year ago. I'm still eating on it. But I'm trying to get my stock of that low and eat up the oldest stuff before I start buying 100 or 200 pounds of new stuff the next time they have a sale. Preaching to the golf addict, preaching to the choir, Mitch, I hate it when they stare at my meat in Costco. Sherry Morgan says, that's why saltines are given to patients in the psychiatric wards at the hospital. Yeah, pure sugar. Pure sugar. Chicken in a biscuit, crackers. Have you looked at breakfast cereals lately? It's unbelievable. I don't know. I was joking the other day. I said I think they have 17 different flavors of Cheerios, but I don't think it's a joke. They invent this stuff faster than we can get used to it. People are buying that stuff. Just go into Sam's, go into Costco, and just look at the pallet loads. Pallets stacked up to the ceiling. And then go in the meat department. And maybe they got 20 or 30 packages of ribeyes, 3 each. And then walk down the candy aisles and the cookie aisles and the pastries and the cakes. And go into the bakery department at Sam's Club, which is right next to the meat department. So you can't help it. Look at the stuff, the cakes and the donuts and the things that they sell in these big flat cardboard things, restaurant size. It's nuts. It's nuts. But it tells a story. They wouldn't be selling it if people weren't buying it. People are buying it because they're addicted to it. It's everywhere. You can't go to an Office Depot anymore without the Coke machines right by the checkout counter. All the candy. All the sugar. Best Buy. Every friggin' store is trying to compete with the convenience stores, which are 99.99% sugar in everything that they sell, especially the chips aisles, crackers, the Doritos. God, they just keep coming up with more and more and more of this stuff. And what do we got? We got eggs, bacon, and ribeyes and hamburger. Nobody's inventing any new versions of that, really. And it's okay. It's okay. Question, Sherry Moore, when I worked in healthcare, all the patients were straying from the medicine and were fed saltines and graham crackers. No meat or eggs. Is any of this mentioned in the... No, of course not. None of this stuff is in the news. You know what you see in the news? Red meat causes diabetes, says Harvard University in the latest study. It's all about the money. I wonder if it can be fixed. I'm very pessimistic about it. I'm visioning it like we're all on the Titanic and heading for the lifeboats, trying to save ourselves before the whole thing sinks. And we'll do that as long as we can. We'll do that as long as we can. Margarine is literally one molecule away from being plastic. Yes. I'm not surprised to hear that. Ellen says, no, but the cereal is a full aisle at the grocery store. Yes, the whole center of the store. And Bill Cook says, may reduce cholesterol. Yes, sugar reduces cholesterol. It does. The more sugar you eat, the lower your cholesterol is going to be. Especially your HDL, which is the, quote, good cholesterol. That's another. Don't get me started on cholesterol. I'll go for another hour. And we're almost at 2 hours here tonight. God, the time flies in these things. Spanky says, I was drinking 6 to 12 cans of sugar-free Coke a day. Wow. Wow, sugar-free. Yeah, I was drinking a lot of Diet Coke too, but the sugar wasn't there, so it just wasn't doing the trick. And then you turn around, in order to get the sugar that your body thought was coming in the Coke because it tastes so sweet, you have to eat all the stuff that really contains sugar. So what kills me is you see these people sitting around eating 5,000 calories worth of donuts and baked goods and pastries, and then they're drinking a Diet Coke because that makes it okay. That makes it okay. Coca-Cola is funding the Harvard studies, says CB. Yes, it's true. Who do you think's paying for all this stuff? And the problem with the news is, who are the advertisers? The food companies and the drug companies. They're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. The farmers and ranchers aren't supporting the local news. They're not going. Again, they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. They're going to support those industries that are supporting them. And those industries that are supporting them, as evidenced by the sheer number of drug advertisements we've been seeing in the past couple of years that we never, ever saw before. Dancing fat people. Incredibly stupid advertisements appealing to the human desire for the instant fix for everything. The magic pill, the magic injection. And man, are we on a bad direction, a bad trajectory with all of this weight loss, injectable weight loss crap. The Wegovy, Ozempic, semaglutide stuff. I get junk mail every day now. At least one email every day telling me where to buy semaglutide on the internet without a prescription. Cheap. How long before the scam artists get hold of all this stuff? They're already in charge. Ah, somebody said hi to Coco. Hey, Coco. I hadn't seen you before. Well, I'm trying to stay on top of the chat today. But I think we're coming to the time where it's about time to say goodnight to all of you. Chris Hope. Hey, Chris. How you doing, buddy? Chris Hope comes in and says, eat meat. Chris Hope's another one of my drone buddies. It's great. It's great for me to see some of my good old friends coming in here. Ellen likes the dancing fat people. You all know the advertisement I'm talking about. They're all dancing in all these ads. Starbucks has an ad where they talk about their 50 different varieties of pure sugar drinks that you can get in the morning, and they're all out there with their drinks, and they're just dancing. Life is great. They're so happy drinking all that sugar. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Sherry Morgan, you're very welcome. Thanks so much. Thank you for everything. There, one of my drone buddies, Chris, is saying hi to Jody. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Ozempic, they are dancing. Well, yeah, it's crazy. Dancing fat people simply sounds wrong, says DS111. Yes, absolutely. But that's our society these days. There's not just one convenience store on every corner. There's 4 of them on every corner. Drugstores, which are supposed to be bastions of healthy stuff, are 95% poison. And the rest are prescriptions, which aren't doing us that much good either. There's more junk and more candy and more ice cream and more chips and pretzels and crackers and cookies in a drugstore than in the average 7-Eleven these days. And the telling thing, and this is why I'm so convinced that we are a nation of carbohydrate addicts, is that I consider all of these stores selling the tons and tons and tons of this stuff every day that people are buying as drug dealers, as pushers. I look at them as drug pushers. And those of us that are buying their drugs are the addicts. So anybody wants to debate the point with me that almost everyone in the Western world right now has become a flaming carbohydrate addict, I'll debate that point and show you why it's true. And then I'll show you that basically the only treatment that actually works is pure abstinence from all carbohydrate. And that leaves one path, my friends, and I'll end on this. The one way, the only way that any of us with this problem that are buying and consuming this crap and killing ourselves in the process and making ourselves sick, losing our eyesight, becoming diabetics, ending up in nursing homes in our 50s, not even knowing our names or our kids' names. The only one way, I'm convinced, is complete abstinence from carbs, and that only leaves being a carnivore. That's it. We're an exclusive club, my friends. We're members of a tiny little band of people that actually put common sense to work, started to believe that all of this stuff we're hearing about the problems is true. We've taken our lives into our own hands, and we've gone completely against society and changed our lives, and that not just in what we eat, but our lives completely. Our interaction with the rest of the human race has changed in most of our cases. So we sit here in chat rooms and interact with each other We're like a few people on a desert island that have discovered the fountain of youth. And we have to be convinced that it's right. We can't listen to them. So I think on that note, I'm going to get a little traveling music going on here. I think I thanked everybody for the super chats. Thank you so much. Always like to acknowledge those. I think that we had a good time tonight. Thanks for sticking around. Still got 120 of you here. That's great. That's great. I've enjoyed it. I always do. Tomorrow, look for my video. Look for my video of our little meetup today at the Brazilian Steakhouse. And of course, don't forget, check out my links on my website, oldguycarnivore.com, if you want to buy any of the gadgets and crap that I use. I really appreciate that. Had to get a shameless plug in here before we're done. Everybody's saying good night. That's about it. That's about it. I am all talked out, guys. So I will see the private community on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll see you all on Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. on a live stream. And until then, you know what you need to do. You need to take the rest of the day off. And you need to eat meat.